What's up, guys? It's Techno Viking 23 coming to you today with some more Destiny, and we're going to be talking about a little bit of Destiny news actually that has just come out recently in the last couple hours ago, I guess. If you guys haven't been paying much attention to Reddit or the forums or YouTube, I guess you'll be hearing it here first, but I doubt it because Planet Destiny. A lot of other places have already kind of pushed this information out. Now, I believe it was Kotaku who originally leaked some of this, and they're claiming they got some information from, a source that knows everything, of course, but it's pretty interesting stuff that has come out. Apparently, we have got some information now on the Taken King, which will be the new DLC that is going to be coming out in September. Now, of course, there was the Red Bull leak. I think that was last week, if you guys are paying attention. I didn't really do a video on that. I thought about it, but just decided not to. There's basically some things that were released with some images showing that there is going to be a Destiny Taken King promotion with Red Bull where you can get bonus XP and apparently a quest mission if you use a promo code from the Red Bull packages. I think that's... I don't know. I have a little bit of an issue with that you have to go purchase an outside product of the actual game to get bonus content. But, before you could... I know with Halo and Call of Duty, they've done the thing where you buy Doritos, you buy Mountain Dew, whatever. You get some bonus XP, you get some prestige and some other stuff. But I've never actually seen a promotion where you had to buy an outside product to get content in the actual game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that is. I think it's, honestly just more typical crap from Bungie and Activision. Which kind of sucks because I've been having a lot of fun with House of Wolves, and I was getting on a more of a positive vibe with Destiny, but it just seems like more of the same stuff. And obviously there are some issues with House of Wolves that I'll be covering later on. But anyways, let's talk about this news. The Taken King, apparently the leaked release date is September 15th, so that is about 3 months away. As I've said a couple times before, I don't know exactly how House of Wolves is going to sustain a lot of the population until September, because quite honestly, we're about 3 weeks into House of Wolves and a lot of the content's very stale already. It's very repetitive. Trials of Osiris is keeping some people interested, but there are a lot of things that are going on with the game in terms of a big divide opening between PvP and PvE, among other things, and that's going to be a separate video I'll do later on, but I'm just curious as to what people are going to be doing for the next 3 months in this game without some kind of major free content expansion. If people have been talking about how there's this raid that they're going to give us before the next expansion comes out that they're working on, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Activision's not going to give you anything that substantial, I don't think, for free. And of course, we didn't get a raid with this expansion. Now, while I do think some of the Prison of Elders encounters, the final boss fights, are just as good as a raid, if not better than what we got in Crota's End, I don't think they can fully basically act as a substitute for a raid. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, moving on here, okay, like I said, September 15th is going to be the release date. At least that's what they're saying. Now, this DLC is it's been leaked that it's going to cost $40. So you guys are basically going to be buying almost another full game. We don't really know much about the content other than the fact that it's been leaked that the raid is going to be about Oryx. Obviously, he is the father of Crota. He's very significant in the Hive lore. If you guys have read the Grimoire, if you have played a lot of the game, we did a Shrine of Oryx mission around like level 7 or level 8 on the moon, and of course never really heard much about him ever again. There's many enemies in the game called Servant of Oryx, Celebrant of Oryx, things like that. But we really don't know much about Oryx other than he is the Hive god. He's father of Crota. So we will see what happens with that. On one hand, that's going to be the raid, and there's supposedly this new race called the Taken, which is why it's titled the Taken King. Personally, I'm not all that excited about another Hive raid. I think we've gotten enough of the Hive in both of these expansions. There's been a lot of Hive. I didn't think the Hive were going to be in Prison of Elders, and yet they are. So it's like they just can't seem to get away from the Hive. Just enough of the Hive already. Seriously, it's ridiculous how much stuff with the Hive is in this game. I really want to see something around the Cabal or even maybe the Vex. Obviously, the Vex got a lot of stuff with the Vault of Glass. They've had a couple different things added in with the Vex, but the Cabal, man, they're one of the more interesting races in the game, and we just have nothing on them. Mars is just this giant empty, wasted planet with lots of potential, but the Cabal, we don't know anything about them besides they blow up planets and moons just for getting in their way, which we heard about back in September, and since then the Cabal have just kind of been sitting there like the whipping boys of Destiny. We don't get any information on them. It's like, why are they even in the game? Because all we really get is the Fallen and the Hive. And after House of Wolves, obviously, if you haven't read the Grimoire, I will say this. As much as I hate the fact they don't have the lore in the game, the Grimoire for House of Wolves on the new cards is very good. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of cool tidbits you can find out. You can find out why there's the rift between the city and the reef. There's also some stuff in there with Eris, relating her to Oryx, and she's in there talking to the Queen in secret. And there's also something really kind of neat about Xur. There is a Grimoire card basically where Skolas, he's the main boss of the House of Wolves expansion, and how he escapes from the Nine and gets free, and Xur apparently has something to do with that. So Xur is kind of I don't know if he's exactly on the good side, but Xur seems to be a little bit of a traitor because he frees Skolas basically and lets him go back with the House of Wolves. So very interesting how that all works out. But yeah, like I said, I'm just really to the point where I'd like to see some more expansion on the other planets that are in the game, the other races that are in the game. Another Hive expansion isn't really all that exciting to me. However, I do think there's something interesting because they were talking about the Taken. A lot of people are saying these are going to be a new race in the game. I really don't see that. They're not going to add something that's significant into the first Destiny, maybe in Destiny 2, but they haven't even expanded a lot on 2 of the 4 races. Even though they have done a little bit with the Vex, we really are not real clear where the Vex came from. We're not real clear what their motives are, things like that. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think the Taken will be a brand new race. What I think, I'm going to speculate on this a little bit and help. This is a little bit of help from a video I saw the other day. If you guys know the YouTube channel, there's a guy, Rifle Gaming. I'll link to his channel below, and also the video I'm talking about. I'll give him credit for that because this was mostly, he pointed this out. If you play the PvP map, the Cauldron, which is a map on the moon, you'll notice, if you pay attention, there are actually some bodies laying all over the map in this PvP arena. There are some bodies of different races. There are dead Cabal, there are dead Fallen, and there's dead humans. Now, interestingly enough, because the Cabal, as far as we know, are only on Mars. So it's kind of interesting they show up in this arena. And if you go in there, you'll notice the arena's got a lot of, it's kind of like this. It's the same sort of zone, kind of like here on the moon. And you'll see these dead bodies around. You can look for them. Don't do it and not play the game and lose the match for your team. But you can go check it out if you happen to be in that arena. So Rifle Gaming, he showed that off. It was pretty cool to see that. Kind of an interesting thing. And if you read the Grimoire card for the Cauldron, it talks about how it was kind of a proving ground of sorts to prove yourself to like the Lord of Darkness or something like that. I don't really remember. I have to go read it again. But what I'm thinking is that like Lord of Darkness they're talking about, I'm thinking maybe that was Oryx. Maybe not. I don't know. But what I'm thinking the Taken are going to wind up being, I think they're going to be the races we already have in the game. I just think they're going to be modified to be like a Hive form. Sort of like the Flood in Halo, how they would take on the combat forms and the different forms where they would, enslave different races and they would take over different races. I think that's what we're going to see actually with the Taken King and the so-called Taken race. I think we're going to see Cabal, Fallen, maybe even some humans or Guardians. Obviously, that would have fallen to the Hive, or maybe were converted to some kind of Hive form, sort of like the Borg in Star Trek. Also, how they assimilate different races and take all their strengths and basically become better. So I think Oryx is going to show up with an army, basically, of all the different races that have been converted to Hive form. That's at least my speculation. I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know if Bungie is at the point where they can still do stuff like that anymore, given the content they've given us so far with Destiny. That would be pretty creative even for them, so it would be interesting to see what actually happens. So that's really all that's been confirmed, is that there's going to be the new raid with Oryx. That's really about it. I'm sure obviously we're going to get the PvP stuff, the new maps, new strikes, and everything else. If you guys remember a few months ago, they did leak the image where Bungie had the Comet DLC, and it was supposed to be like 3 new strikes, 2 raids, and some other things. So it'll be interesting to see what actually, in terms of the content we're going to get, because I got to be honest, guys, $40 is a little bit much. This DLC is going to have to be absolutely spectacular to justify a $40 price tag, because I have to be, this is where I'm gonna kind of go into my little, sort of disappointment type talk here, is that basically we've had 2 expansion packs with Destiny. If you bought the expansion pass with the game, it was $35, I believe, way back when the game came out. If you did not, I believe they were $20 a piece. So you either paid $35 or $40. But most of us who play the game have now paid $100 for what we have in terms of Destiny. And I will tell you, for $100 and for all the stuff they've added in, Destiny to me still does not feel like a full complete game. It still feels like a game that's in somewhat of a beta stage. Like, they don't know exactly what they're doing with this game. Destiny to me still is struggling to find an identity into exactly what kind of game it is. It's not really a first-person shooter. It's not really an MMO. It's really like kind of undefined, like what the actual kind of game this is, because you have elements of both of those in it, but really it doesn't really do a lot of that very well. The loot system is still pretty much kind of just ridiculous, and the PvP right now is just super unbalanced. As much as I do enjoy PvP in this game, because again, it's got so much potential like everything else. But we're now, come September, we're going to be a year into the game. They're going to be asking you for another $40. At that point, you're going to be almost at $150 for the game, which you could buy 3 games with, or more than that if you buy them used. And for that kind of money, you're just maybe at that point going to finally be getting what is a complete game. And I just, myself personally, I can't justify that. So I more than likely, I don't know, I'm on the fence right now about what we're going to see with the Taken King. I'm hoping that they're probably going to have a few things at E3 about it. So we'll see what actually what they tease us with, what they give us at E3. But I'm not going to get overhyped. And unfortunately, I already see a lot of people that are just super hyped, like on the forums and Reddit, like, oh my god, take my money, Bungie, like, you just take it. And this is part of the problem in why we continue to get lackluster content with Destiny, is there's just so many, as we like to refer to them as, desticles, who just eat up anything Bungie says, anything Activision says about this game. They don't think there's any fault with the game. If you try to even give constructive criticism, they get all up in arms. They just come after you and just flame you, and it's really aggravating, because it's like we can't even have a discussion anymore about what needs to be fixed in the game. All the people that are running to defend like final round snipers and Thorn and things like that, it's just amazing how many actual like people there are out there who are just sheep, who don't have their own opinion, who just think everything is perfectly fine. And if you disagree, then you're just an idiot or a loser or whatever they call you, some rather hateful names. But at this point, we'll see what happens at E3. Obviously, if anything major is revealed, I'll let you guys know. But I would say, like I did with House of Wolves, is just kind of wait around and see what you think. Let somebody else buy it and see if they like it, and see what the content is before you actually decide if you're going to do it or not. So that's really my main concern. I don't want to spend another $40. I've already spent $100 in this game, and I still don't feel like we have a full experience. I feel like House of Wolves, as exciting and as fun as it is right now, obviously we're only about 3 weeks into it, and the newness hasn't worn off, but already there's glaring problems with it. It's created a huge divide with PvE and PvP players. PvP really seemed to get the good end of the stick this time. The loot that drops in the Crucible and from Trials of Osiris is just amazing compared to what you get for spending a ton of time in Prison of Elders. The rewards in Prison of Elders are not worth the time sink you have to invest in it, especially when you get to the higher level 34 and the 35 one. You're just definitely not getting enough back in terms of the time you invest in the game, in terms of the kind of rewards you can get. And I'm going to do, like I said, a separate video explaining all of that. But House of Wolves is number one. It's created a big divide in the community in terms of that. It's also created a rather large elitist population, especially on all the looking for group sites. If you guys have been trying to find a group for any content, you know what I'm talking about. While I have had much better luck on PlayStation 4 than I did on Xbox finding groups to run things, it's just the fact that everybody on there is like, oh, you must be level 34. You have to have a maxed out Yallarhorn. We're not going to run you through trials if you're level 32. People don't want to just play the game for fun anymore. It's all about, you have to have the flawless icon. You have to have been to the lighthouse, or you're a scrub. We're not going to let you play. Don't bother asking. Just things like that. There's just a lot of, it's become a bit of a mess. And my other thing too is the content in House of Wolves. It's just boring. It's like once you get through it, what else are you going to do? What are you going to do for the next 3 months until September? There's obviously a couple new games coming out too. The Witcher 3 just came out. I know a lot of people are playing that. Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other games coming out between now and September that may pull some people away from the game. So, and again, I don't want to just hate on Destiny. I do enjoy many aspects of this game. I just feel like, as usual, we always talk about the potential of Destiny and how it never manages to actually realize what it has. So, and this DLC just seems to be doing more of that. And like I said, for 40 bucks, I just don't know, guys. They say they're going to put like 12 story missions in it, but as we've seen with the Dark Below and also the House of Wolves, they really don't care about story. So when they say they're going to put 12 story missions in it, I'm just imagining 12 new areas where we're going to go through the exact same part of the map we've already been on and run through it again backwards with like enemies that may have a few cosmetic changes. I don't really think it's going to be a lot. There's some huge glaring problems they just continue to ignore. Number one is the lore not being in the game, the lack of matchmaking, which really needs to be an optional thing for the game, especially with House of Wolves has really made that glaringly apparent, because basically you've had, like I said, this huge divide and a lot of elitism on the looking for group sites. It's very hard for players who don't have a lot of friends to run through a lot of the content. And you end up discouraging people from wanting to play any of it in all reality. So there's so much else that needs to be fixed before we start talking about more DLC. And it's just and I understand this is a leak, but you wish they would just keep this information quiet for a while. To me, it's just such a poor practice. You've basically just put out House of Wolves. People just bought this new DLC, and we're not even 3 weeks into it, and already you're saying, "Oh, here's the next piece. It's 40 bucks. Give us more money." It's kind of like what's going on with Batman with Arkham Knight. It's like they announced the game, and then already they announced all this DLC that you have to buy. I just wish for once we could get a complete game. I don't want to hear about DLC when the game is being developed. I don't want to hear about new DLC when I'm just playing the DLC that I just bought. I'm getting tired of that practice just in general from these companies, and I really just wish they would fix some of the stuff in the game. So we will see what happens with the Taken King. Like I said, guys, I will pay attention to the news on this and bring you anything that I feel is relevant. And if anything comes up about it, we'll see what happens at E3. E3 is going to be exciting. I'm actually more excited about E3 for some other games. I'm hoping we finally get some news like on a Mass Effect 4. But we'll be interesting to see what Bungie does with Destiny. It's going to be interesting. It always is. So anyways, guys, it's going to do it. I went a little too long on this, but let me know what you guys think about already having another DLC announced and having a $40 price tag for the next Destiny expansion. Let me know your comments, your opinions on it down below, and be sure to go check out Rifle Gaming's channel and his video on the Cabal on the Moon. I'll post those links below so you guys can check them out. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you again next time. What's up, guys? Real quick, I'm sorry I'm back on. I totally forgot to mention that with this new DLC, there will be 3 new subclasses for all of the characters, so the Titan, the Warlock, and the Hunter. It has not been confirmed whether or not these will be part of the paid DLC. As we saw with House of Wolves, a lot of the major changes that came in with the game when the DLC came out were actually free, and you didn't have to buy the DLC to get them, like the new gear and vendors and upgrading weapons and things like that. Apparently the Warlock is going to be getting an Arc subclass, which they'll have some kind of like lightning storm attack. The Hunter is going to be getting a Void subclass. It will be some kind of bow and arrows, super something. And the Titan is going to get a Solar class, which will have like a big flaming hammer. So very interesting things. Sorry, I forgot the original video as I got sidetracked going on my ramble about other things. So just wanted to jump in real quick here, add that at the end of the video. And again, guys, appreciate you watching. Thanks for your time. And I will see you again next time. For real this time.